What we wanted to do was we wanted to take the old game and try to remake it as similar as we possibly could to the original in order to somehow foster a connection between the past and the present. After all, religion is unchanging.
The original's a classic. It'll never be duplicated. If you're not trained, you might not see the differences, but they're there.
I remember once we actually got our hands on an ancient...
That was a treat.
That was amazing.
From the Smithsonian.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the original game is not a toy anymore. It's an artifact.
The original had a certain understanding of the principles that I don't even know if 100 years of research could comprehend. It was closer to the principles. We knew that going in.
Well, you see, we tried to get together a group of people who would model it after the original ancient version. I mean, we wanted that consistency. We wanted that validity.
See, the scariest thing for me has always been, can I recreate the masterpiece? And I mean, we all know the answer is no. You just can't recreate it. I mean, I made a volcano in the 3rd grade science fair. It won first prize. Now ask me when the last time I made a volcano was.
When the guys came to me, I said, okay, you know what? Let's push this ancient game thing. Because you know what? That's cool. That's hip, right? I mean, like, when you think about it, when you think about, like, history and stuff like that, you don't think about them playing games. You think about them, you know, like, raising sheep and you know, gathering grains and killing people in the Colosseum and ripping them to shreds. But, like, you don't think about them playing games, which I just thought, you know, was...
Don't make volcanoes anymore. I mean, not that I would turn that down. I mean, I heard that Spielberg was maybe making a volcano movie. I would not turn that down, but I mean, the original volcano will always be the original volcano.
800 years ago, the Jewish people mourned the death of Rabbi Moses Maimonides, the illustrious Rambam. It was Maimonides who cut the precious diamond known as the 13 roots of the Jewish creed. During this octocentennial year, a group of enterprising university students turned to a mysterious etching from the Cairo Geniza to create a mind-bending challenge of faith for the 21st century. The name of the game, CREDO 13.
Welcome to CREDO 13. I'm Michael Kegel. The 4th root belief of the Maimonidean Creed is that God is eternal. Now, in human years, that would make him...
And the 4th principle is the idea that God is eternal.
That God had priority, that he was first.
God always was, God always will be.
In a realm that is outside of time.
I think transcendent is the best word.
It's not just that he's, eternal as we understand eternal, he's above time.
God is eternal, but the universe is what is called muchudash. The universe was brought into existence.
Only God is eternal and matter is created.
Everything that exists other than him is not first in relation to him.
It's not first, because first would imply that there was something before the first.
Say you pile up blocks to infinity, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on, and you never die. And then you finally get to infinity. What do you do then? You add one more block. Off the top of our Credo drama number 4, Jackie can be seen toying with the possibility of building her faith entirely in a cylindrical and circular manner.
The ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter.
Pi.
Yes.
You were an extra in a documentary on pi?
Yes.
Who would you play?
I was the 613th digit after the decimal.
What'd you wear?
A 2.
How'd it fit?
Very well, actually.
Were you the only 2?
Oh no, not at all.
How many 2s were there?
At least an infinite amount. At least.
Infinite amount of twos?
So it was
At
mostly
least.
twos. I wouldn't say that.
Well, how many extras showed up?
About an infinite amount. Infinite extras? Pi is non-terminating. This is a major project.
Are they done with filming?
No, hardly.
When's it gonna air? They don't know. Probably never. Never.
The eternal nature of the project is kind of prohibitive.
Technical difficulties.
But they let me keep my costume.
How does a 12th century creed become a challenge of faith for the 21st century? This is Credo 13. The fourth principle of Maimonides' creed: God is eternal.
To say that God transcends the world, that God is prior to the world, I think their means could only be a creator God.
God created tornadoes. He created sunrises.
God calls the world into being.
The cause of everything is Hashem.
He created everything that we see happening, all the rules of physics. It's all planned out.
The origins of all things are rooted in Hashem.
All things. So when it says in the second verse of Genesis that the earth was tohu vavohu, formless and void, this primordial chaotic matter was also rooted in Hashem, in God. Would anyone disagree?
There do seem to be some Rishonim, some early authorities that quibble with this a little bit, and they kind of go towards the eternity of matter. This was a minority opinion amongst the early authorities, that matter was also eternal.
The view of Aristotle that the world is eternal, that is, it's always existed like this.
Of course, Maimonides couldn't go with that. It would have been an utter contradiction with his notion of God.
That we always have to reject on faith. To believe that the world is eternal, we must reject. It gives the lie to miracles and all that. So you can't say that, you can't bring science into it and say that if science proved Aristotle's position, then we could accept that. No, then we'd have to reject science and just say based on faith. And we don't understand it, but we cannot never accept Aristotle's view.
The God of Aristotle is not transcendent. The God of Aristotle is kind of the apex of nature.
The problem with Aristotle is that Aristotle, his God is not a personal God. His God doesn't know anyone but himself. His God is the prime mover.
The God of Aristotle is totally, as late Professor Harry Wolfson referred to him as the divine paralytic. He's not doing anything other than being attractive, to which everything is attracted.
But Plato's view, which still has a God who creates, who is free, who acts in the world, that we could reinterpret.
Maimonides kind of likes, or says he likes, Plato's notion of creation, where God kind of creates the world out of some kind of primordial matter or whatever. Well, God is still, therefore, limited to a certain extent. A craftsman can do a lot with matter, but you can't do everything with matter.
It also compromises God. You could say that he can't make the angles of a triangle equal the angles of a square.
A square circle cannot exist, by definition.
So it all depends. Do you see creation from nothing as falling into that? Maimonides says no. Maimonides says God cannot do the impossible, logically impossible. Creation from nothing is not logically impossible.
I believe it was Galileo proved that you could not have a 1,000-foot tall tree. Can't be. Because if you scale up a tree to that size, it wouldn't be able to support its own weight. It would collapse under its own weight. So given the laws of nature that we have, such a thing is impossible. But certainly it would not have been beyond God to create the world with a different set of laws of nature.
Are these ideas in the mind of God, we could say, that God created? If that, okay. If these are ideas, however, that God discovered, is therefore beholden to, then we don't have an absolute God.
This is interesting because nowhere in the Mishnah Torah does he say that Jews are obligated to believe that the world was created after absolute non-existence.
Interestingly enough, there were some who read the Bible as, that there was some kind of primordial matter.
In the beginning, God created heavens and the earth. The earth was unformed. You could say there was the deep there. These are all elements of eternal matter.
Even the later Jewish philosopher Ralbag, Levi ben Gershom, Gersonides, seemed to be implying, and people had a lot of problems with him, some kind of primordial matter.
The famous Ralbag, an important medieval authority, he too believed that God could not create out of nothing. He thought that God created the world out of eternal, formless matter. So he did not believe in creation, yesh me'ayin, out of nothing.
In our language in the Rambam, our language of the Ikarim, the Rambam does not specifically mention creation ex nihilo. There are manuscripts that now say that the Rambam does mention creation ex nihilo as one of the fundamentals.
Originally, the fourth principle said one thing, and then Maimonides later corrected it, as it were. Originally, the fourth principle stated that God had priority, that he was first, that everything that exists other than him is not first in relation to him. It's not really clear what he's talking about. It seems that the fourth principle, as it originally stated, is that everything is dependent upon God, which is also stated in the first principle. But later in his life, Maimonides added on clarification of this, that this principle affirms that God created the world ex nihilo. He created the world out of nothing, out of absolute non-existence, something that only God can do.
In other words, a God who in no way is dependent or even codependent upon anything outside of himself, which means a transcendent God.
To be utterly independent is to be God. We are but the shadows of independence. For example, when we feign nonchalance and frantically give away our CREDO pieces, as if to say, oh, I can do without that one, and that one, that one.
I never got higher than a 65 in gym.
Okay, but I failed home ec.
How do you fail home ec?
I don't know, my teacher said I was too dependent on my food.
Your teacher said that?
Yeah, she said that the dish depends on you, you do not depend on your dish.
I'm not sure what that means. Is that a joke?
No, I wasn't the master of my kitchen.
I haven't even mastered takeout. This year I started putting my own cereal. That's a big step. Thank you. You know what your problem is?
Yeah.
You're overeager.
Yeah.
Beat the eggs. Don't let the eggs beat you.
So much to learn.
So what is so wrong in believing in a primordial cosmic egg? Like the Big Bang, say. Why is it essential for our daily lives to believe in a creator who beats the eggs, who didn't come into being but is eternal?
And at a physical level, the question of divine authority. There's again a created or a God who came into being at some point is not really in charge of the whole business.
In other words, there is another realm outside of the realm that we take as a given. And God exists in a realm that is distinct from our realm, and he then chose to create this realm.
Worship of God entails a notion of some substratum of value that is genuinely eternal.
So this realm is created with rules because they are chosen rules. I think that's extremely important. We live in a world that is inherently planned.
I think it's been very well developed by the late Israeli Bible scholar Yecheskel Kaufman, died in 1960, emphasizing that the key idea of the whole Bible is this totally free, absolute God who chooses to create a world, chooses to elect Israel, chooses to give the Torah.
The very rules of the world were created by him.
Doing God's will is connecting yourself to something that has genuine perpetuation.
We need air to breathe because God declared that we need air to breathe.
If you look, let's say, at Rav Soloveitchik's writings, which are usually not looked at from this particular perspective, but if you keep asking work like Uvikashtem, when he contrasts what it is like to live a religious life versus a non-religious life, that idea of there being some eternal source of value keeps popping up.
Rabbi Soloveitchik says it by puravu in a very powerful way. He says that it's not simply that you need a male and female in order to have a child, and therefore ethics came up with the idea of monogamy to do it, as I said beforehand. He said that really God wished to see the unity of two human beings, and the greatest expression of the unity of two human beings is through the creation of the child. Therefore God intended for the child to be the creation of the unity of two human beings, so that it would reflect that unity.
In other words, monogamy as a human behavior is a reflection of an eternal value. And therefore the Torah, which is the dictation of all eternal values, is a sign that the Creator still stands by his creation. Creation is perpetual.
My teacher said that a cook cannot lose sight of her dish.
Metaphorically?
She used to say that a watched pot never burns.
Is that how that goes?
To be a good cook, one must stand by her creation through the good and the bad.
You didn't stand by your creation?
No, I only once produced an edible chicken, and more than routinely abandoned my pastries.
That's inexcusable.
I once knew a chef who could work 6 ovens at once.
My best friend has the largest cookbook collection in North America.
4-year-old girl just won the world's best pie cooking contest.
Well, a 3-year-old boy just won the world's best pie counting contest.
I wonder if he reached digit 613.
You really developed an affinity for the part, didn't you?
It was a special role.
CREDO.
A typical sequence. Jackie crowns her castle, Sam flattens her modular, Joe immediately re-apexes it with a red cube, so Sam nabs a green cube from Joe, Jackie does the same to Billy but in blue, Sam does the same to Billy in yellow, and Billy de-rooks Jackie's castle. 7 moves within 5.5 seconds in a game that, in principle, has no beginning and no end.
Someone stole my watch.
On the set?
Yeah.
Did you see who took it?
No, but I have a feeling it was digit 512.
How do you know?
He was eyeing it all day, and he was moody because they originally slated him for digit 249, but they bumped him down. They said he wasn't enough of a household name.
So you think he stole your watch?
Yeah.
I lost my watch 3 months ago, and I haven't replaced it yet.
How do you manage?
I actually get more done now.
Not tied down by the limitations of time.
Exactly.
I once lost my watch. It was refreshing for a while. You'll come crawling back.
I don't know. I feel emancipated.
You'll revert.
I'm thinking of getting one of those pewter watches.
Those are expensive.
But they have an anti-scratch surface.
Yes, they have a lifetime guarantee.
Supposedly, the watch does not die.
Or so tests have proven.
There's something eerie about a watch that never stops.
What's it ticking for?
Time is also a created dimension.
Time was a creation by God, so therefore God had to precede time.
God's non-existence is inconceivable.
There's nothing in the world that pre-exists God.
Therefore, he must always have been.
That's why I say the word first is usually a time thing, right? First, this goes beyond time.
And must always continue to be.
The Sforno says, Bereshis bara Elokim. Bereshis, the Rashis, the beginning, Hashem created.
I mean, that's one of the things of the oneness, of the uniqueness of God, is also this: God is the absolute, that which not greater than can be conceived.
It is inconceivable that God should not exist.
If he's the beginning, meaning that he's the cause of everything, and then he's the end, there's nothing else. So of course that means he's eternal. I mean, the end meaning there's nothing in the world that exists after him, so that means that he's eternal.
So I think the eternity of God doesn't mean a time span of great length or even infinite length.
Hashem created the beginning. Time.
It really alludes to a state of existence which is totally removed from time.
So it means by definition that's eternal.
Right, where God alone exists without the constraints of time and space.
Beginning means my beginning is from God, and the end of my life, or the end of the world, is also God.
You know, to say that Ani Rishon Ani Achron, I am the first and I am the last.
Rishon Bu Achron is more about the beginning and the end, not the first and the last.
I am the first and I am the last does not mean first in a series, last in a series.
The first thing that walked into the room, before nothing walked into the room, was my father, right?
But the one before one.
the first person to eat the meal before nobody ate the meal was my wife.
And the infinite, the sign for infinity.
But there never was a time that nobody ate the meal, right? Or nobody existed. So you couldn't say the first. You say the beginning.
Going back before creation.
He's the beginning. I mean, the beginning means the beginning. There's nothing else that goes before the beginning. It's the beginning.
We cannot say that God existed within the framework of time.
You talk about something that happened. Yeah, but that's him. That's him that happened. But what happened before? But no, that's him. If he says if there's a beginning before that, he is that beginning.
After creation, there's a material world. We can speak of the past, present, and future.
Oh, but this beginning, what happened before that beginning? No, he's that beginning, because he's the beginning of everything there was.
God predates the creation of this world.
As long as this was here, as long as anything was here, as long as nothing was here, as long as everything that was nothing or nothing that was everything was here, Hashem was there.
And even if the universe were to end, and in the mystical tradition there is evidence to that possibility.
And if he's the end, that means to say, you said, but what happens after the end? No, but there's no end yet, because he's the end. There can't be another after the end, because he's the end.
God would still continue to exist in that same state, removed from the constraints of time and space.
Why he chose this language is to be researched.
Keep building the faith with Credo 13. Join us next week for the next root belief of the Maimonidean Creed. God alone is worthy of worship. Stay tuned for the Men in Black Hats on Messages up next.